Welcome, everybody. And here we are, the Gab Real Talk, Real Insights. I am Gabi Johnson, and I am here with the guru and our guest, Michelle Caravella. Today is a hot topic about nutrition during the holiday. So join us on logging on the Facebook, Princeton Television Facebook, so you can stream, you can put your comments, you can share your ideas, and you can address questions to Michelle. But today we are short of two of our hosts, who is Melissa, that we'll see later on during our break, and Amita, who is stuck in an airport. But nevertheless, we are all here today, and we are going to have fun talking about Thanksgiving. Now, remember, November is Diabetic Awareness Month, and it is great to think about all the 34 million Americans living with diabetes. And Michelle will help us to talk about a little bit about the subject of how to work with that. But here on set with me, we have Esther, and we have Dr. Joan, and our beautiful guest, Michelle Caravella. So girls, here, jump in. The topics is Thanksgiving. What are we going to be doing during Thanksgiving?
Eating.
Yes.
Eating and celebrating.
Eating and celebrating. So we were just talking about, funny things is like we don't have Thanksgiving in Switzerland or in Jamaica, right?
So they have it in...
Well, no. Thanksgiving is when the celebration of the pilgrims coming into the U.S. So it is a U.S. Holiday. Being thankful to survive a terrible storm. It was the first time that the pilgrims had lived that in the Indians that were Native American Indians that were here at that time helped the pilgrims not only eat, but survive that brutal winter. Yeah. And it was a beautiful time of collaboration of two different groups of people coming together. So, and that's what Thanksgiving is.
Yeah, I was telling Esther. I said, we're from Jamaica. We're thankful every day. We just have everything to be thankful for. So it's great to come and to set aside a day or two to just say thank you. So
Yeah.
and with food. So
Of
I love
course.
that.
Well, I love Thanksgiving because this time of year, I feel like friends and family, they always kind of come together, no matter, where everyone is in their lives, which has always been my favorite part about it. And a fun fact, I was born on Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Maybe I'm a little biased, but I definitely.
Do you get more present?
I think it doesn't make a difference.
I'm born around Thanksgiving too. I'm on the 27th.
Oh,
And no, you don't get more presents.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's a heavy duty day also for the moms, right? That we are cooking up a storm. And I remember when I was young and my mom would be cooking for Thanksgiving. And I remember saying this, oh gosh, I don't want to be an adult. That's a lot of hours. I hear my mom in the kitchen. And now it's like I'm up at 4:00 in the morning getting stuff done. And it's like, but it is a great time. Like you said, the family gets together. They drive from everywhere to that destination home. I happen to be the one that I get to host. And so my sisters are coming and they're, husbands or significant others and all the nieces and nephews. And I just, so
Love it.
exciting. So happy. So happy. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So what about the food?
Let me tell you, right? They don't allow me to cook. Not because I can't cook, but they just like one year they put me on desserts. And I decided I was going to make healthy desserts with like black bean brownies and applesauce and the cake. And I was so anxious. I'm like, eat it. Did you eat it? Did you eat it? Did you try it? I was so anxious. And they were like, what did you do? And I was like, I made it healthy. And they were like, never, ever again. So I haven't been on.
Yeah, I've had a healthifying horror story myself on Thanksgiving. I think now with the holidays, we'll talk later about moderation, but I had a similar, maybe worse experience with that when I decided to make a healthy mac and cheese using a sprouted pasta, which is very high fiber, and butternut squash cheese in lieu of cheese. Let's just say it did not go over well. This year I said I'm making mac and cheese, and my one sister said, please don't make the one you made that one year. Just make regular mac and cheese. So yeah, healthifying things on Thanksgiving is a little risky.
Yeah.
Well, for me, the story is like, coming from Switzerland, of course, we didn't have Thanksgiving. So when I integrated my husband's family, I thought it was absolutely amazing. First of all, the entire table was covered with food. And then they bring that big, huge bird in the middle. And it was like, wow, this is awesome. Of course, you need to like the bird, but, regardless of you like it or not, it looks pretty. So good memories, good foundation for family, meaning all the nephews and aunts and uncles are coming together. And it's such a heartfelt moment to be. And this is one of the things that I miss the most. Is because growing up in Europe, we are actually sitting down for meals, for every dinner, every weekend. And the family goes around the table and sit down and talk about their days and what happened. And you eat great food. And the dinner, my husband said, you guys are nuts. You're spending 3 hours at the table. I can't do it. And then you come here and you are so busy with your kids' sports and this and that you never sit down. So this is a great moment for me to cherish my family and sitting down and really hearing all the stories of everyone and really big hugs.
Yes.
So your family does the talking around the table. Does anybody do games after? Or
We do.
You do games?
Yeah.
What do you?
Sometimes, usually it's a lot of
Football.
wine drinking. Or the guys watch football, but we sit around the table for a long time. I'm from a big Italian family and Irish in there, and we love to just sit around the table. And we play cards sometimes.
Yeah.
Depends.
We share it back and forth. Sometimes we have very competitive games after dinner and dessert, and then so I come from a long line of ministers, and so we all grew up in church. So we, hit that tune, and everybody starts to sing. And when we are with our elder
Do you have
side,
a big voice?
I used to have a big voice
Because Joan has a big voice.
Yeah. I was a singer many moons ago. But when we go visit, when the elder ones come, the great aunts and they're musicians and singers, but they do gospel, hardcore gospel. So,
Oh my God.
That sounds awesome.
oh
Yeah,
my
that
God,
sounds
it's
like a
fun.
good
Yeah.
time.
So I miss because they don't travel as much anymore. And so I miss that, watching my uncle playing the guitar and my aunt, singing, and my grandmother and my great grandmother, all these people that used to go around and have great aunts to sing beautifully. And I miss that because the younger crowd, we don't do gospel.
Yeah.
No.
We play Taboo, and that's anyone ever played Taboo?
Yes.
We just laugh, and we just keep it going, and we play teams, and it's so much fun. And we just eat, and we sit around the living room, we just play our games and have a good time and listen to reggae music and all that stuff.
That great.
So it's a really good time. It's a really good time.
Aside from the turkey, what's in a Jamaican?
Oh, we have oxtail, we have curry goat, we have that fish with escovitch on it, which is just like carrots and onions and stuff. We have all that rice and beans. It's lots of food.
My mouth is watery.
Lots of food.
1 second, I have to suck my saliva. What about you? What do you have?
Now that the parents has passed away, the Thanksgiving is a very small family reunion, and my husband and son really don't care really much about the bird. So we're gonna have, the traditional ham and meatloaf and things like that, and the sweet potatoes and, all the good stuff that comes with Thanksgiving, and only once a year. And cheese fondue. As an appetizer. I gotta bring that Swiss. It's a family tradition.
Yeah, that's right. Your family tradition. That's what makes it beautiful. That every family has their own. What do you guys do?
We do a lot of the traditional things like the turkey, the ham, the stuffing is one of my favorites. Sweet potato pie, all that good stuff. Pumpkin pie. I'm in charge of the pumpkin pie. And the mac and cheese, the regular version.
Yes, Michelle.
Rest assured, Danielle, it's not going to be the healthy one. But my aunt makes stuffed mushrooms, and it's really good. Oh my
goodness, sounds fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of food.
You just give me an idea. Awesome.
Yes.
Sounds heavenly.
I'm in charge of bringing cheese, so every year I have to get the cheese, 20 packs, and then I bring it in. My sister makes the mac and cheese, but it's so funny. You get there, you look at the table like, why did they make so much food? And then on Tuesday, when you're still eating, you're like, all right, now I know why. It's lots of leftovers.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So we have interesting fact. Average person consume around 3,000 calories on Thanksgiving.
Oh my goodness.
Dave, thank you, Lourdes. I did not know that, but I better hit the gym before going there, going my Thanksgiving. Wow. What is the average calorie intake normally for an average person?
Generally speaking, most recommendations are around 2,000 calories for the average adult. Of course, that varies from person to person. So 3,000 calories in one day, I think people, that might be, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, the kind of a regular day for a lot of Americans. I hate to say it like that, but yeah, that does seem like a lot of calories for one day.
I think because as we shared some of our foods, that's the highest starch. Whether you're a potatoes and meat or you're the pastas, we're the rice girls, you know. So we're eating a lot of potato salads and, you know, mac and cheese. And I think that's probably why it's 3,000, because it's like,
well, beyond the starch, I mean, the fats are going to make a lot of, the fats are the most calorie dense. So, and just in general, how much you're eating adds up. So those starchy foods we tend to, you know, like a lot of, which is okay. And we just want to be mindful.
And there is a solution,
a
solution to a post-Thanksgiving solution, wash it all out.
I wish there was, detox,
Detox.
No, you know, the best solution, I would say, after something like Thanksgiving, if, you know, for some of us, maybe we feel like the damage is done already, just waking up the next day and really not mentally beating yourself up. And of course, staying hydrated, that can absolutely help, you know, flush out some of that salt, so that immediate bloat that you might feel, you know, but I encourage everyone watching to not get crazy where they think they have to do a cleanse or anything like that.
And is that what they're saying?
So we have a question from one of our viewers. Thank you, Mike. Do you take a special time to actually give thanks during your Thanksgiving dinner?
Oh yeah,
that's a great question.
Great question. Thanks.
Well, the way we give thanks, I guess, the minister prays over the food. We say thank you and we eat, but we're not sitting around like, today I'm thankful for this, and you know, we don't pass it around like that. It's not like that. We just pray, give thanks, and we eat.
Oh, we do.
What do you do?
It's every year I make, from the adults all the way to the kids. Say it's so cute when the kids say it, so adorable. And the teenagers say something that they're thankful for. To me that's really, really important. And the prayer, of course, you know, over the food, and bless the hands that did it, and I always say thank you.
Oh, that's nice.
Because I need it.
What about you, Michelle?
My family usually, you know, like my mom and my dad would say thanks and grace, and usually at that point everyone's like very eager to jump in, but I love that idea of going around individually. I know sometimes we do like peek and pits in my family at the end of the week just for fun, but to go around and give thanks individually, I think
I like that peek and pits.
the peek and pit, and two things you learned this week, or there's like a rhyme to it, but I forget. But yeah, the high and low. That's a fun way to.
I did try to do what are you thankful for when the kids were younger, but once they got older,
they just want to eat.
No, Mom, I'm done. I'm done.
So my Thanksgiving tip is we have a jar that precede the Thanksgiving. And so we write our Thanksgiving throughout the week. And then when we come to Thanksgiving dinner, we open the jar and we read our message.
That's really nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I thought about doing that for the new year. Once January comes, you do it throughout the year. December, you read again.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I like that. I like the peaks and
how, because I don't know what it is, so please tell me.
So the pit and peak of the week, or whenever, you could do it any day. It's just like one thing that, you know, the best part of the day is the peak, and then the pit is, you know, the worst part of the day, or just kind of to recap on your day. And then it could be fun just to, you know, instead of just saying, how did your day go? You can kind of just, well, what was your favorite part of the day? And what was your least favorite part of the day?
Right.
So
I
just
like that.
Fun one.
I heard a father on, I don't know, maybe YouTube, some social media, saying that every day he picks up his son, and I just started this, not consistently, was to ask what was the failing moment of the day in school. Our kids are, you know, going through things in school, challenges. he was so funny about it because he says when the kid would say, "Oh my God, math was just a disaster today," or "Such and such person was mean to me," and he goes, "Okay, good, but what did you do what did you do with it? Did you try?"
Mhm.
And then he would high five the fact that the child tried and not succeeded, but tried.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh my goodness, I wish I knew that before, because so many times our kids are going through things, and
Yeah.
And that's why I do the Thanksgiving Say Something, because so many of our, especially the nieces and nephews, are going to stuff and they're quiet about it, and so I want them to say,
It's a good way to get them
to
talking.
a little,
Yeah.
give me some info.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important. Yeah, even the high and low or the pit and peak is just a good way to,
Just get it out.
yeah, hear you get it out and hear what your family and stuff is going through. So that's a great idea.
Wellness, which is one of your expertise, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
so good to practice that.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Well, yeah, that's kind of what I would put in the soul nourishment. And when you all were talking about family and that being one of our favorite pieces, I think that really reminds us to like cherish the people who are there, because, in 10 years or who knows what next year will bring, you look back and there's so many changes. So I think that's an important piece of wellness, or that soul nourishment piece, which Gabi knows I love.
Absolutely. And we'll talk absolutely more about that topic when we are going to, because we are going to make a little break in a few minutes. So we'll really dive in after the break into that wellness, because I think that's what makes you very unique into guiding and leading, especially women into their wellness and their diet journey. But also talking about, what will happen this Thanksgiving and what are the alternative. But if you would like, please join us on Facebook stream Princeton TV. Put your comment, engage with us, with Michelle. Like I said, we're missing two of our crew today. Amita is stuck in an airplane, and Melissa had a big, huge event yesterday with Just With Success, and she's still rolling with it. So we are going to have her coming on a break right now with a video and talking about Thanksgiving.
We are here at Terhune Orchards here in Lawrence, and we're here with Pam Mount and Tan Witt. And we wanted to introduce you to all of the great things that are going to be happening during Thanksgiving and talking about apples and festivities here at the farm. So tell me, we'll start with the pie. What is the best apples to make pies with these days? Look at all of these great apples.
Luckily at Terhune Orchards we grow 35 different kind of apples. So you can always find the apple that you want here. But the good thing to do is go through the whole process and taste different ones every time you come, and see how much fun it is that there are so many different apples. But for cooking, we have the premier cooking apple, which is our Stamen Winesap. And really, Stamen Winesap you don't hear about because it really only grows in New Jersey, maybe a few people in New York and a few in Michigan. But basically, it's a New Jersey apple, which means it's kind of ugly on the outside, but delicious on the inside.
That's what counts.
And it makes a fantastic pie. And we, of course, make lots of pies, all different flavors, but apple pie is everyone's favorite. And it certainly goes with Thanksgiving dinner. Everybody has a pie at 2 o'clock. We're thrilled about that. And but we sell pies all year round, too, because it's sort of a staple American dessert, which people have a good time with, and it's easy to serve.
One of our signature things we also make with our Stamen Winesap apples is our signature deep dish apple crisp. This is my grandmother's recipe, and we've been making it here for 45 years. It's a deep dish apple crisp with a crumble topping. So you can order yours for Thanksgiving or take our recipe and make your own. So it's really a wonderful dish that we make year round, and it's truly delicious with Stamen Winesap apples.
I've had it. It's delicious. Like I said, I've gotten, not last year because it was COVID, the year before, 20 pies for our clients that we distribute to their homes, and that definitely the apple crisp was delicious. Some people like the traditional, but some people that have that sweet tooth, they want a little something else. It was delicious. I think we're going to go out later to the apple orchard.
Yeah,
they're
we'll
still
see what
up,
they
right?
They're amazingly enough here in November. We still have apples on the trees. They're holding on, and we are great. grateful because people love to pick their own apple.
So tell us about these Pink Lady apples.
Pink Ladies are really delicious. They were developed in New Zealand and have been imported into this country, and we grow quite a few and people love them. But they're late season. Here it is already November and they're still hanging on the tree pretty well. We'll be picking them in the next week or two. So I think we'll have people can come here to pick their own Pink Ladies and Granny Smith. We also have our whole orchard on Van Kirk Road where we have had pick your own since the end of August.
I was going to say, which are the first apples to fall?
The first ones we pick are probably Macintosh.
Okay.
And Gala is a really good sweet apple people love.
Great.
And so we have about 10 apples over at the Pick Your Own farm on Van Kirk Road.
Great.
We're now picking Granny Smith, Stamen Winesap over there, as well as things like Empire. And
how would the Granny Smith
one? And the Granny Smith will be here. Once we start picking these, we'll be picking those.
Oh, perfect. So
in about a week or two, we'll have lots of picking here at the farm.
Exciting. Let's take a tour and look at these apples.
As you know, an apple has seeds. And in the spring, of course, the blooms on the apple trees, we hire in bees to pollinate the apple trees because that's like an insurance policy. And every seed is a cross-pollination from the variety of the flower, apple that was on the flower that was on the apple, and another pollen from some other variety. Otherwise, the apples don't grow. So each seed has a new type of apple. If you want to grow your own apple, you just plant the seeds and see what happens. You might get a new variety and make all kinds of money on it.
That's great. Let's go see.
So there are thousands of apples, different kinds of apples. And of course, they whittle down to the ones that grow well and look great and taste good and all
Especially
that.
in pies for Thanksgiving,
Yes,
right?
and are perfect for pies, yes.
Welcome back to the Gab, Real Talk, Real Insight. If you're joining us right now, go to Facebook, Princeton TV, and put your comment, engage with us. We have our guest, Michelle Caravella, a dietitian, who's going to talk all about tips during Thanksgiving. And thank you, Melissa, to have shared this wonderful video about the apples. So guys, what is your favorite apples?
I tend to get Gala. I don't know why. I think it's because she said it was sweet. Maybe. Yeah.
I like Granny Smith, but then this summer, my oldest sister, got some envy, and she let me try, and I was like, "Oh, where's this been all my life?" So I'm in love with envy apples now.
Yeah. I love Fiji apples.
All right, so we have a comment here from our viewers. Can you give us any tips to not really feel guilty about eating fat and sweet and carbs and more for just one day? Michelle, all yours.
Yes, sure. So that's a great question. And, my first initial thought is I hope for everyone that we never feel guilty eating any of those foods, because eating is never something that, we want to feel guilty about or ashamed about. However, I understand the sentiment here with the question. So the first thing is, you have permission to eat whatever it is you want. So I think giving ourselves that mental permission and remembering, even though nutritionally, maybe some of those foods aren't as great for us, from a moral standpoint, that doesn't, mean they're good or bad. So I think just remembering that first and foremost. And then secondly, being mindful of the amount. I think a lot of the times, not only because we, put a moral value on food that we feel that guilt and shame after, also though, because we eat past the point of fullness, we eat too much.
Yes.
And I think that's also what adds to that guilt and shame. And then we just physically don't feel good. And then it's this whole spiral. So to answer that question, I would say, the first thing is remember, just because the food isn't maybe as nutritious for us, that doesn't mean it's bad. So therefore, when we eat it, that doesn't mean we're a bad person because we ate that food. And I think a lot of us, whether we consciously realize that or not, do that to ourselves, and it, unnecessarily contributes to that guilt and that shame. And then just just be mindful of how much you're eating of it. I think then we just feel good physically and mentally, emotionally.
So what happens if you keep on, I don't know the expression, but keep on going on the train of disaster? I don't know.
Okay, you mean like in the moment or after?
Yeah, so because that's one of the things is like, like you start eating and you're like, oh my God, this is so good and it's so fattening and it's so much sugar, and you keep eating and you keep eating and you keep eating, and ever after Thanksgiving you keep eating.
Yes. Okay. So if you're already on the train, I want, whether you're on it or you're not, a tip here, Gabi, with two things. I want everyone to remember this going into Thanksgiving and always, that when it comes to food, more isn't always better. I think we can agree that past, even if it's mom's, like I love my mom's stuffing, like it's so delicious. But eating it past that point of fullness doesn't make it better, like taste better. I think we can almost all agree that it kind of makes it like, like we feel kind of sick of it. So just remember that even though your mind might say, oh, but it's so good. Remember, like, eating too much of it can almost backfire the goodness and the enjoyment factor. So stay connected to your body, and like when you feel full, do your best to listen to that. And then if you're already on the train of the disaster train, if you want, self-destructive behavior where you're like, well, I already blew it on Thanksgiving, so I'm going to blow it all the way to January 1st. Just remember that that's just kind of there. At any moment you have a choice, so you can get off that train as quickly as you got on it. So, and the quicker you acknowledge that, you come from an empowered place and say, you know what, I don't need to wait till January 1st. I could just, do the nourishing thing right now, today.
I had heard through a nutritionist friend of mine who had recommended that, she says, have a few bites, like give yourself like, let's say 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes. Obviously the quality of the food and the combination of food is important, but let's just say we're having a meal, and in my house, we are Puerto Rican food. So it's like the rice, the beans, the mashed potato, the potato salad, it's just, there's no greens. I haven't
a confession.
I have included greens in our meal when I invite my family. And I think only my son and one nephew tried it. Everyone else was like, what is that? So we're starting to get better as a family. I do eat greens all the time, but anyway, regardless, so here we are. She was saying that take a bite, put the fork down, chew, take a bite, put a fork down. And then she says, do it for 10 minutes and then just step back and chat, or, take a little break and see how you feel. Is that true? Is that a technique, or what other technique? Because I think the issue is,
should you just pinch yourself? You're
I
eating
think
too much.
The issue is that when you're eating and the taste is so good, right? The taste is so good that you keep going and you don't realize that you're full already. So
right, yeah. So there's a couple of, it sounds to me that what she was suggesting is a technique that exactly kind of brings you to the moment and slows you down. Yeah. Yep. And whatever, if that works for you, I think that's great. I think, as you practice that, you might find yourself having to be less methodical about it, like take 10 bites. But if that's going to help you now, I think that's a great idea. The key is, giving your body a minute to catch up to what you put in it. So sometimes we, run through the food so quickly that we don't realize that we're actually full. So just slowing down, like you said, focusing on conversation, even, coming up for air and just having a drink, like, those things are going to help you like get your hunger and fullness cues catch up to your brain, right? It takes a minute. A bonus tip, though, even before you get to the table, is making sure that, especially on days like Thanksgiving, that when you sit down, your hunger level, if you were to rate your hunger level, isn't a 10 out of 10 where you're starving. So we all know that feeling of, we're waiting for the food at the restaurant, we didn't eat all day, and we want to gobble the whole bread basket because we're so hungry. That's a way to really kind of set yourself yourself up for a disservice, because when your body tastes that, that delicious fatty food or those carbohydrates, which are these energy dense foods, your body's like starving. So it's like, oh, of course, it's not your willpower. It's your physical body saying, feed me. Oh, she put food in my mouth. And we almost make up for those hours missed of eating. So never sit at your table like a 10 out of 10 hunger. The key is to eat before you're starving and eat when you're hungry. So there's no such thing as saving calories, ladies. Everyone thinks like, oh, I'm going to save all my calories. That's a way to kind of feel worse after dinner. If you eat your breakfast, you have, some appetizers. So then when you sit down for the meal, you can be much more empowered. And it doesn't feel like, oh my God, well, it's so hard to practice willpower.
Right.
If your body's not fueled, you're gonna, overdo the rice, the beans, whatever it is.
Yeah, I have a question. I heard a story last night by Jackie Goldschneider. She was a teenager getting ready to go to college, and her doctor told her she was overweight. She was obese. How do you speak to that teenager that they don't want to eat too much because they don't want to get fat, and then they fall into anorexia, bulimia, because food is our friend, right? Can you talk to that person about that?
Sure. So are you talking about maybe like on the holiday or just in general with this?
Holiday in general, in life, especially if somebody tells you you're obese, like how do you handle that? Like,
or even words like fat, right?
Yeah,
because
fat,
sometimes people use.
I was saying a nice word.
Yeah.
And
fat,
just before you answer, here's the stat actually on anorexia is approximately 200,000 individual in the US struggling with anorexia, and is the third most common chronic illness in adolescents. Now it's all yours.
Okay, yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think this both, what Joan said and the statistic, Gabby, you shared is it highlights such an it highlights the importance of how we talk to our children, how we talk to each other,
absolutely.
what we normalize, how we talk about our bodies, how we talk about food. We live in a kind of fat phobic culture, which can perpetuate, the things like obesity and also things like anorexia. So, different types of eating disorders or disordered eating. So, yeah, I think to answer, to go to Joan's question, and, when it comes to food, since that's something that's tied directly to our bodies, and our bodies are so put on a pedestal in our society. So, therefore our self-worth is wrapped in on this. So it's a very, complex thing, but when we're talking to our children about food, we don't want to ever bring it back to our body and its appearance, right? So that's when, oh, well, that'll make you fat, or this will make, or you're too thin, don't comment on anyone's body in the appearance sense. There's a difference between, like Joan said, if you have a teen or a child who is afraid to eat because of their appearance or their weight, you might need to address that as, the mother or a loved one. But being very careful about not making it like, oh, well, that's going to make you fat, or you're too thin. And instead taking a neutral approach, I think, is very important. Food's going to give us energy. The carbohydrates, that gives us energy. And not demonizing any type of food, I think, is very important. And to go on with that, if your child, or if you, even adult, is restricting food where it's showing up as a serious eating disorder, like you said, or on the flip side, you're overeating a lot, it's never about the food. So getting curious as an adult, a parent or even a friend, and just checking in, how are you doing? Again, avoiding saying, oh, you're looking so thin, again, or you're looking overweight, and we're not going to say those things, especially to kids. So getting curious about what's going on, really. Eating is just a behavior. It's not.
But is those behavior not something that, like, you are in the closet type of like when you do really have a problem with food, you know, are you not like hiding it, like, you know, you eating too much behind doors, or you going to the bathroom too many often, you know, and what do you really, how do you really help a person that has a tendency to either be anorexia or have bulimia?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for most people, it's, you know, you never really see exactly what they're doing. That's another way to reason to refrain judgment and comments, because what someone does in front of you is only a fraction of their day.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't want to, you know, judge other people's plates. But I think more often than not, it is done in private. If you're someone who, you know, is a binge eater, or you're restricting, or, you know, if you're going to the bathroom, it's usually there's a lot of shame wrapped in both of those things. So a lot of the times they're not going to say, oh yeah, I have a problem. So I think the best thing you can do as a concerned friend or family member is create that safe space where you say, you know, how are you? And really have a listening ear and show signs of comfort or concern in a loving way to let them open up, because you can't force someone to open up. And I know it's, you know, easier said than done when you're a parent. So if someone like anorexia, if your child you think might have anorexia, I think getting those people in the hands of the right care.
Right.
So, you know, bringing them to a therapist or a dietitian or someone
Right.
is
A
the best-
professional.
a professional.
So a professional.
You know, you said something very interesting. There's always a root to this issue. In Jackie's story yesterday, it was a doctor who I mean, doctors know this. Your words have a lot of power. Anyone in leadership roles have a lot of power. And for a doctor to have said to her, you don't want to go to school fat because you're not going to have fun. It was the trick. She was fine. She was fine, right? Her family didn't bring any shame. Although a lot of moms also without noticing or realizing, we are always talking about our diet, right? And not realizing that our daughter or one of our children, boy or girl, may be so connected to that parent that they also see themselves with that struggle, and it does create those issues.
Yes.
Right. So sometimes
I'm guilty of that too, you know, because I have two boys, and they're both very skinny. And I find they eat a lot of fast food, and I hear me say it, like, one day you're going to regret eating all that fast food, you know? So some of us might unconsciously do it and not mean to do it, you know, and you hear yourself doing it. You're like, why am I doing this? You know, because you want best for your kids, you know? So I am going to stop today.
Well,
a
couple of things. Yeah, I didn't hear that story, but that infuriates me. And I think it starts with, you know, challenging that doctor, even as her and as the mother, of being your body weight and appearance. Although I know we live in a culture that kind of might be mean, but we get to challenge that and say, that has nothing to do, oh, thanks, doc, but that has nothing to do with whether or not I'm going to have fun. Right. So that's just behooves me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but talking, you just bring a point, you know, our culture, meaning I think that we are switching, because like even the other day I was, I don't know, it was an advertisement, you know, online, and it was for clothing, for sport clothing. And, you know, before you will only see like skinny little models, you know, and now you really have like the skinny, the medium, and the large. So I think culturally, you know, as an entire society, we are moving forward to a better recognition of all body type are okay to be on.
It depends. So, for example, we're from New Jersey. We're not fully there yet. Where California, you know, it's so aware of, you know, what you say, and you know, being not only politically correct but gender correct, all these other corrections that I noticed that in California and Oregon, they seem to be more embraced with it. But we are taught, and you're right, the media is now, starting to shift, which are giving us an appearance that it's okay to be the shape you are. And it is okay to be the shape you are. I mean, you can't change that shape.
No.
But you can lose the weight, but you can't change the shape.
But let's talk
shape.
about health, though. Sorry.
I just wanted to say, you know what? But you know what? It's still, we're not there yet, because social media is such a big part of people's life. They still see the skinny girl, they still see the thick girl, and they want to be like that. And it's an area too where they kind of they're now being shown that they're fat shaming. So that's a big part of why they're like trying to step back and trying to normalize, all weight, all size,
all shapes,
shapes.
Yeah.
So we're not there yet, but I think we're starting to break the ice a little bit.
I think the fact is that each of us have a shape of body that, and you might be eating healthy and working out, but you don't have that slender, long look. You just don't have it.
What about menopause?
Oh, when you go through menopause and it makes you chunky?
Yes. Yes. Any tips?
Listen, ladies. I can only talk from my client's experience and my
really?
I think that even just normalizing that, though, like some weight gain that is, that does happen when the body ages, where which is why it's so important. We don't want to fall into the myth of, oh, well, once I hit a certain age, I'm doomed, right? Because attitude is everything. I know, I know we all know that. And and at the same time, though, as we age, our body does change. We're more, as women, especially, more apt to put on fat, less, likely to hold on to muscle, more muscle atrophy, or in other words, the muscle kind of goes away and the fat can more easily come on, especially in the mid area. However, that doesn't mean it has to happen. It just amplifies what we already know at the core, which is, do our strength training. And I always get on my mom's case about this. Again, not so much for looks, but for your own well-being, right? For strong bones, lift some weights, do some body resistance, eat balanced, eat enough protein, eat enough of all the macronutrients. So just take care of yourself throughout the lifespan, and try not so much to use that as a crutch, like, and a woe is me. And if we look different than we looked, at 50 than we looked at 20, that's normal.
What about the men? What can you tell the men that's starting to go through the midlife crisis, the middle, the bump?
Right. I mean, it's the same thing. I know. I think for men too, I think as human beings, we forget that we don't get a pet. Like, everyone's looking like, oh, can I just hire someone to do that? And of course you can hire help, but we don't get a pass when it comes to our bodies. You have to show up for it, whether you're 20 years old or, 50. And Joan, I would say, even what you were saying to your sons, even though now it's great, you want to be mindful, we don't, even though we're normalizing bodies at every size, I don't want health to get lost in that. Not to say that it will, but you can still say, as a loving mother to your sons who are thin, just because they're not putting the weight on, like, you better watch out eating all that, whatever, in a nice, way. We all, I'll trust that parents know how to approach their kids with that, because no matter what age or what our bodies look like, it matters what's going on in the inside. It's like that person who can be rail thin. This is why we shouldn't glorify thinness, because they can be rail thin and have a heart attack because, they're chain smoking, they're eating fast food. And just because it's not physically showing signs on the outside doesn't mean that it's not making an impact on their health. And that's what matters.
I think that you hit it on the nail. I think there's a big misconception with association of what's healthy and what's not. And that's why body shaming is becoming a big topic, that it doesn't matter the size of your body, because that's your shape of your body. But what you're eating, how you're feeding your body, are you resting, are you working out, are you hydrating, are you, taking time? That's important.
We have some question here for Michelle. What type of things can we do to increase our energy on a daily basis? And then we'll come to you, Lourdes, on the next question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, everyone wants a quick answer for that, the first thing I think of is making sure we're getting enough sleep. I mean, again, it's the non-sexy answer, but it's something so many of us, even me this morning, I was like, I'm a little tired today because, whether that's we're too stressed to sleep or we're anxious, like start with the basics there of make sure we're sleeping enough. If you have trouble sleeping, and even if you don't, but you feel like you're lethargic, make sure you're getting exercise in. It might feel hard in the beginning because you're like, oh, but Michelle, I'm too tired to exercise. But over time, that's going to help increase your energy and make sure you're eating nutritious foods. Are you waiting till 3:30 p.m. to eat your first meal of the day? Remember, food is fuel. Joan does. So
is there like specific food that gives you more of a kick? Like if you need like a real fast kick without the caffeine,
without the crash,
without the crash.
Yeah. Sure. Well, when we think of food, our carbohydrates, even though I know where some of us are scared of them, that is your energy source. So if you're crashing, you want to make sure, whether it's fruit, grains, whatever that is, make sure you're having carbs. That's fuel.
Which carbs?
So that's a great question. There are some better sweet potatoes, your starchy carbs, carbs that have fiber and nutrients. Those are going to be what we call longer lasting carbs. So oatmeal opposed to, trick cereal. That's going to give you that quick, a lot of sugar and then that crash. So, your fruits, your whole grains, those are great types of carbs for that.
I would have thought not Brussels sprouts, asparagus, those are not the ones that give you the higher.
Nope, those are going to be like your non-starchy carbs. So great vegetables, they're low calorie,
So
they're low carb. Yeah, they're. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Another question here. Thank you, Lourdes. Can you talk about the role of vitamin D and B12?
Sure. So speaking of energy, beyond the basics there, making sure we have enough of certain vitamins that do contribute to our energy levels, like B12 is a big one. And vitamin D is also a big one. So most people actually, if you got your blood work done, would see we have low levels of vitamin D, which is common in this area. So making sure that we have adequate vitamin levels so we can, have proper vitamin D now not only is great for bone health, but we're also seeing that's important in heart health and just making sure and hormone health as well. And B12, all your B vitamins are helpful with your, your energy levels as well. So
where do you find vitamin D in food?
Vitamin D is mostly found like fortified in dairy. So, milk, cheese, eggs.
Get it with nut milk, right?
That's why I eat that
if it's fortified, so you have to see. Yeah. So
if you don't have a dairy diet, then
you might want to take the vitamin.
Take the vitamin. Really?
What other supplements can you tell us about?
Well, you know what, Joan, I would say supplements are often a distraction. It's not my area of expertise in the sense of, if for the most part, if we're doing the things and eating a balanced diet, for most of us, that can really, we might need the vitamin D supplement and the B12, especially if you're a vegan and you're not eating a lot of animal products. However, but if you think you're have a deficiency, I always recommend go to your doctor, get blood work done, and don't just, your pocketbook's gonna thank you, and also your body, because again, it goes back to more isn't always better. So we don't need a whole bunch of stuff necessarily. Now, if you have certain needs, you might, you know what I'm saying? So
do you have, when you do normalizing nutrition with your client, do you have them go through a blood test?
Yeah, so I have them, if they have gone through a blood test, like if they've had one done, that's something we'll review, and from there I'll make recommendations. I don't do the blood test myself.
Right.
We just focus more on
You read the results.
Exactly. Yeah.
Read the
So
results.
finding a trusted doctor too, to run things like a hormone panel if you're concerned, if you're like, Michelle, I'm doing all those things and I'm still tired, I'm still fatigued. There are things that might be impacting that beyond your diet. So it's really good to, check maybe your thyroid or your insulin levels. And, maybe we're not absorbing some of the nutrients.
Yes.
So, go ahead.
No, I was thinking like for eating and food has such a stigmatism on it. You talk about normalizing
Nutrition.
normalizing nutrition. What can you tell somebody to say, get out of that mindset? Food is good for you. Eat what you want to eat.
Yeah.
How can you tell that person? What can you tell them to normalize their nutrition?
Yeah, I love that question. I think the first thing, of being empowered is, one of the awareness. So connecting to those beliefs that, like you mentioned earlier, we're brought up with, that conditioning, just like we have beliefs about money and love. It's the same thing about food. So being aware, and then just I have my clients like brain dump all these beliefs like you would about money almost. And we almost kind of like start to neutralize these things to take that emotional power away, to acknowledge some of these maybe outlandish beliefs. And then when we get aware, the education, I'm motivated by education. I know not everyone is, but I think when we get educated on the truth about things, it zaps some of that emotional pull of it away. And then we get to say, oh yeah, wait, so carbs aren't that bad. So I think that's a way to kind of help get out of the mindset. So just neutralizing that, realizing that that's not true. Mom was just always dieting and said that about carbs, but that doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
This is the truth about carbohydrates.
And how much diet can you really do? Because I have friends, they dieting over dieting over dieting. And is it really good for you?
No, diets are really distractions to success. If we really want to be successful with our nutrition, we would just understand that the diets are not the answer. But again, it's a multi-million-dollar industry, and I hate to look at it in a negative lens, but that's kind of why we're so pulled to that.
All right, we have Tom coming in with, we should always enjoy as we eat, but remember how important it is to remember food is fuel, and junk food can drag you down. Yes. Thank you, Tom.
Yes.
I wanted to mention a few trends that are happening that are promoted almost in a health spin, such as, because you said people are eating at 3:30, and fasting has become such a promotion of a lot of doctors, promoting the fact that the body needs that cleansing time, that you should have 18 hours. Some people are promoting up to 3 days without eating, and
my God.
So I know, right?
I'm like,
so if you're over 50, 18 to 20 hours of non-eating, and then eating very nutritionistly, and then nutrition is it's interpreted in different ways. So for example, the keto diet is still a very big promotion, a combination of fasting and keto. And then other people do fasting and paleo, or some people say, no, let's do fasting and carnivores.
Right.
What do you experience and your knowledge in this field? So.
Yes. I keep hearing about this new, wave of doctors promoting this fasting necessary. And I just want to remind everyone, we do that when we sleep, right? That long period that these doctors are saying, out of the woodworks now with, I hate to say this, but probably very minimal nutrition background, although we all take the same physiology class, but maybe not quite. So sometimes I wonder where they get their information from. But, the first thing I'll say to everyone watching is, what is your intent behind this all, right? So, you know, is it to lose a quick 10 pounds? That's great, you do you. But if it's to be healthy and make sustainable changes and to lose fat modestly without losing your mind, which is really what normalizing nutrition is about, then all of those things, again, distractions. And I look at nutrition not so much as a, you know, do the latest trend, but what is the truth? Like, what is the science? So when we hear things like the keto diet, and we also know that to fuel your body, we need these 3 macronutrients, including carbohydrates, which the keto diet lacks. I'm not going to ethically tell someone to do the keto diet, because that's like starting your car without gas and saying, oh no, I want you to try this and run it on this, even though we know the car needs gas. So we have to really be mindful that the keto diet is just another diet, and there was an intention behind that, which was to be medical nutrition therapy for children with epilepsy, because it lowered their reoccurrence of seizures. But beyond that, like, same thing with intermittent fasting. Your body actually tends to look for fuel elsewhere when we don't feed it in, you know, every 3 to 4 hours or so. So when you're intermittent fasting, where this new, you know, research or doctors are saying that, oh, you're cleansing, you're actually breaking down, you know, muscles and cells if there's no energy to go from. It's not as simple as just going straight to the fat, right? Or else I probably wouldn't be here if it was that easy.
Right.
So just be mindful. And every diet you do, it's like digging yourself in a hole a little bit deeper, because again, we're human beings. So we just take in more food rules and more guidelines. So then when you do come to someone like me or decide, like, you know what, I want to cut the crap, it's that much harder it's not impossible, but it becomes more of that list of limiting beliefs is longer and longer, because keto says no carbs and this says carbs. So now you're like confused.
I think one of the things that I and I've done it all. Tell me whatever, I've done it. Check. But I think for me, bottom line is, you know, refined sugar is no good. Nobody has to tell you that. We all know that. The donuts and the cakes sounds delicious, but if you have it more, you know,
Moderation,
right? So then candy and chocolates and all that stuff. So now it's about vegetables and eating clean meats and having nice, delicious organic eggs and all that good stuff. But eating a little bit of everything, just not, you know, overfeeding. Yeah. Although this Thanksgiving, that's going to go on.
So before we leave the set, because the hour is running out, Michelle, one big tip for this Thanksgiving.
Stay connected to your body, to your soul, to your family, and enjoy the experience, enjoy the food, and be kind to yourself.
That's awesome. To everyone that has watched us today, thank you for your comments. Thank you for your participation. Next, December 9 will be our next guest. After Thanksgiving, we'll have washed out all those toxins, and it will be Peter Whitfield and talking about business leadership. But right now, we are going to go to our event, who is right here in Princeton. Thank you, Melissa, for your video. Amita, I hope you get out of that plane, and we'll see you all here on December 9.
Bye.